Hi, this is Scott from Spectre Gear with another Tactical Shotgunner Pro Tip, and today I'm going to be talking about the A, B, and C zone when it comes to shotgun, and here we're talking about ammunition performance. What the A, B, and C zone are definite zones wherein the zone itself from where you're operating, and we're going to be talking about distance zones. That's going to determine how you should aim the shotgun and what you can do with the shotgun based on the anticipated performance of the pattern on target. Okay, and I'll try to make that a little simpler as we move through. But basically, your A zone is going to be from contact out to about 3 to 5 yards, and that is going to be that zone wherein when you fire the shot, the pellets are going to stay together pretty much like a pre-fragmented slug because you're so close to the target. The pattern has not had time to open up in any significant form, and essentially, as I said, we're talking about a pre-fragmented slug where everything is going to impact inside of a very small area of about 1.5 to 3 inches. Within this zone, you can be very discriminating in where you aim and where you put your shot. It's also very important within this zone that you aim your shotgun and operate it just like you would a carbine or a rifle, because wherever you put that bead or that sight, that is where that pattern's going to go, and it's going to make one ragged hole. Now, when we move out beyond that, we get into the B zone. And what the B zone is that point at which the pellets begin to separate and begin forming their own unique strike zones. So we're not striking as a pre-fragmented slug anymore. Instead, what we're doing is, as I talked about in the patterning test, where each of those rounds are now striking independently within the body and striking a separate internal organ. Now in that zone, you aim the shotgun a little bit differently. In this case, you're going to be aiming very much for center mass, because you know that from center mass, those pellets are going to spread outward all the way out to the end of the B zone, as much as the limits of this 7 ring right here. Now beyond that, when the pattern expands so much that the pellets are no longer reliably striking within the body, we enter the C zone. And the C zone is almost like a reversion back to the A zone, but in this case we're going to convert, or rather we're going to transition the shotgun over to a solid projectile, a slug, and now we're going to tighten that pattern back up again, and we're again going to shoot it just like a rifle, and again we can have a little bit more discretion and discrimination as to where exactly we put the round, knowing that it's only going to hit one hole at a time. So I hope that makes it clear, but what I should do first is give you a little bit of a demonstration of what that looks like. So we're going to start with the A zone, and what I'm going to do, we're going to fire one round of double-up buck, 2 3/4 inch 12 gauge, 9 pellet load, standard velocity. I'm going to step back to about the 3-yard zone, and I'm going to go ahead and give us a headshot, and I can show you what a typical A zone shot looks like, with the thought in mind again that we're going to aim and shoot this just like a rifle. Wherever we're going to put that bead or that sight, that's where that pre-fragmented slug of those 9 pellets traveling together in a tight pattern are going to go. So let me step back to the 3-yard line, and we'll see what that looks like. Okay, are we ready? Okay, here we are up at the target. This is that A zone shot, and like I said, from contact out to about 3 to 5 yards. You can expect your pellets to travel together in unison as a pre-fragmented slug, so you're going to aim it just like you would do a solid slug. You shoot it just like a rifle, and wherever you put those sights, that's where it's going to hit. In terms of wounding potential on this, that is 9 pellets traveling all in unison. That is one solid tunnel hole wound, or rat hole wound, or tunnel wound, and that is definitely going to do some devastation to anything that it hits. So what we would have now is, if we were to move a little further out, say back to the 7-yard line, what we're going to start seeing is some separation, and we're going to start forming those individual strike zones with each individual pellet. So at this point, let's go ahead and take it out to the 7, and I'll show you where we start to get into the B zone, and we need to think in terms of not necessarily, because I could take this A zone shot and I could put it in a shoulder, I could put it in another shoulder. If this is a full-size head shot here, and I needed to, for instance, put it right through the right eyeball, you have that degree of precision in the A zone. But when you get out to that B zone and those pellets start to spread, you really can't do that. Because if I do aim very specifically for a small spot, I may get 3 or 4 pellets in here, but I'm going to have another 5 or 6 that are going to travel downrange and miss the target entirely, and we don't want that. We want to contain all the pellets within the adversary. So at the 7-yard line, we're going to see those pellets start to open up a little bit. They'll probably be all within the 9 ring, but they will start to open up, and then we'll go out to about 10, and we'll see it open up even further. And then again, we reach that point to where we start getting a little too far outside, and when I think about tightening it back down, go into the C zone and going to a solid slug, and then putting holes like this again, albeit a little bit smaller, well, exactly 3/4 of an inch or 12 gauge. So with that, I'll go ahead and take it out to the 7-yard line, and we'll go from there. Okay, 7-yard line. Center mass shot. Okay, this is the beginning of our B zone. We're at the 7-yard line, so that kind of tells me on my A zone, I could probably extend that out a little bit further. I'm probably safe with the A zone, taking it out to about 5 yards. But now at 7, we see the pattern start to open up. We see a definite cluster of a couple of rounds here, a couple rounds here, a couple rounds here. They're still close together, but they are starting to form their own individual wound channels. So everything at this point is still pretty nicely within the 9 ring. Actually, most of them are within the 10 ring, with just a couple, one cutting the 10 and then just one out into the 9 ring. So when we move out to about 10, we're probably going to see it open up to just getting outside of the 9, and we're right in that sweet spot with the B zone. But again, with the B zone, it's important to note center mass. Pretty much everything goes center mass, and that's going to give you the greatest likelihood of striking an adversary and disrupting as many internal organs as possible, so you get that Aryan juice out effect that I've discussed. So with that, we'll go ahead and cut here, and we'll move back to the 10-yard line. Okay, this is our 10-yard shot. Obviously, there's some holes here from the 7-yard, but you can start to see it opening up just a little bit. This is your wad here. Disregard that. But we are opening up some, but it's still a pretty tight pattern for this particular gun and that particular distance. I like this load with this gun, and I'm going to do another video where I talk about patterning your shotgun with different loads, because it's entirely conceivable I could load a different load into the shotgun. Maybe these are Federal loads. I could load a Remington load in there, and although it's pretty much the same standard velocity 9 pellet double-aught buck load, I may get a completely different pattern. Shotgun barrel dynamics are quite interesting, and that's why it's so important to know your load as well as you know your gun, so you know what it's going to do on target, and it's part of being a good tactical shotgunner. But we're still in the sweet spot of that B zone. This is kind of exactly what we're looking for. Center mass shot, massive organ disruption all throughout the center torso here. Again, one press of the trigger, 9 holes, 9 internal organs, all kinds of messed up. So at this point, I'm going to take it all the way out to, I'm thinking take it to the 25. I think at the 15, we're going to see it move out, maybe just another inch. So let's take it all the way out to the 25 and see what kind of pattern we get, because I think at the 25, that's going to show us about the limit of the B zone. And that's going to tell me that pretty much everything within 25 yards is mine with double-aught buck, but anything beyond 25 yards, I'm going to need to think in terms of a shotgun slug. So let's go ahead and roll out to the 25 and see what that one looks like. Okay, this is a 25-yard pattern. Bead sight was placed here. We're kind of in this area now. We're starting to see a couple of pellets starting to drop out. We're getting right at the limit of the double-aught buck round being able to be contained inside of a standard human torso. Now keep in mind, this is not a standard size B27 target. This is actually one that more realistically is the size of a standard human being. Your typical B27 is about a third larger than this and is about that wide. This is a more realistic representation of just how far out we can get without having to worry about the pellets going beyond our target and becoming a problem for someone else. So 25 is right at the edge of the B zone. So if I'm pretty good about knowing what 25 yards looks like. If I see anything that I think is further out than 25, then it's time to go to a 12 gauge slug. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, and hopefully we'll be able to see it. But we'll go back to 25 again, and I'm going to go ahead and do a select slug drill. Actually not. I'm just going to drop a slug in. I have a video on how to do the select slug drill that should be up, or if it's not up, it will be up soon, and that'll sort of explain how that's done and why. But now, that's going to be our C-zone, and our C-zone is going to be all the way out to the limits of which you can accurately shoot a slug, and that's going to depend largely on your sighting system. I have, in the past, done pretty well actually at 150 yards with a bead sight on a 12.5-inch barrel Remington 870. It wasn't easy, but it's doable. That's where you start thinking about things like rifle sights, either an express sight system or ghost ring sights. But for now, let's go ahead and roll it out to 25. I'm going to load a slug in, and with a bead sight, I'm going to try to put that thing right there. Okay, 25 yards, 12-gauge Remington slug, 1-ounce load. Okay, we're back from the 25-yard line. We had put up a new piece of paper because this is so shot out in the center. I didn't want to lose the slug during the test. But as you can see here, got it to 25 and dropped one just above the X right in the center. And that's going to be one 1-ounce slug traveling at about 1,500 feet per second. That's definitely going to do somebody in pretty quick. But just to reiterate, this is C-zone activity, and the C-zone is going to be from the limits of your buckshot pattern, which may for you, well, for me it's 25, for you it may be 20, for you it may be 35, depending on the choking that you have on the gun, and we'll talk more about that in the future. But from 25 out to the limits of the sighting system, you're good to go with slugs. And again, you aim it and shoot it just like a rifle or a carbine. But one thing that's definitely true is that a better sighting system beyond that distance is definitely something to look into. Now, this particular gun, just as a point of explanation, this is a house gun for me. This is not something that if, for instance, I had to go, walk the hillsides out here at the range looking for bad guys. This isn't the gun I would bring, by the way. I have other shotguns with better sighting systems that do give me that versatility I need once I get into the C-zone. And there we're talking express sights on my 870. My partner Jeff, for instance, has a Mossberg 590 with some excellent ghost ring sights on it. And for some of you, we may even be talking about red dots or other type of optics. So that can definitely be a huge benefit out there in the C-zone, out at those longer distances. But I hope that kind of gives you a little something to think about and gives you a little better understanding of shotgun ammunition performance and how to operate your gun within those certain limitations of that A, that B, and that C zone. So with that, I'll bring it to a close. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day.